if I'm enough exactly as I am, that's how I'm going to show up, right? I want to show up with heart. It is crazy how it shifts the relationship. We're able to trust each other very quickly, and we're able to get through to the real stuff and realize that we're all human. And then it's like, how can I help you? Hey, Nikki, thank you. Yeah, that's a great question, Nikki. Um, well, it started, I mean, really, I started out like I grew up. I feel like probably a lot of people grew up very differently, right? Like we don't all have the same upbringings and backgrounds, even though we think that we do. But I kind of had a very interesting upbringing. I had a biological father that was a con artist, and he was somebody he was twice my mom's age, and she got pregnant with me, and they ended up getting married. And just not like the best person. And I saw a lot of that. And then he died when I was really young, and my mom got remarried to my dad who raised us. And in contrast, he was a blue collar cop. He'd been in the army and then the National Guard. And he was very much the opposite. Like he wasn't a con artist. He toes the line. He does what's right, and he has high expectations of everybody around him. And he married my mom, and she had three daughters, and he adopted the three of us. And he's a wonderful man, but he had no idea how to raise kids, let alone girls. And so I was always kind of his boy, right? The oldest girl. And it was always like I remember him telling me, like, pick up that bag of shingles. And I'm like 14 or 15, and I probably weigh 105 pounds tops. And he's like, pick up that bag of shingles and carry it up the ladder and bring it up to the roof. I need another bag up here. And I'm like, I can't get that on my shoulder. And he's like, suck it up and take it like a man. Do what I said, get that bag and bring it up the ladder. So I grew up with that kind of dynamic, right? And I was always kind of in trouble. And we didn't have a lot of money. My mom was going to school for nursing. She had me really young, so she was still figuring out her life and her career. I was the oldest of five girls. My dad was a cop. And so we just grew up pretty poor. We lived in the country. We lived in a double wide trailer that was my grandma's that she rented out to my parents. And it was beautiful. I loved where we lived. I could take off, and I'd go for miles with my dogs, and go camping on the desert. And I loved it. And we had gardens and everything else that we had to take care of. But there was still a lot of trauma, and a lot of, like, again, my dad had three girls. He didn't know how to deal with us. He did the best he could, but there was, still a lot of friction. And I was always in trouble. I was told so many times, your mouth is going to get you killed, or you're going to end up in prison or dead. Right. Like, Yes, and I was always causing so much trouble. So got through high school. I didn't even get through high school. In 10th grade, I decided like I'm done with this. I don't want to live here. We lived in this little town called Price, Utah. I hated it. We moved there when I was 13. And I told my parents when they moved there that they clearly had not prayed about that decision because it was a terrible decision. And as soon as I was old enough, I was moving. I was leaving. And I did. I dropped out of high school. And at 17, I moved across the country to South Carolina. And I had an aunt and uncle who lived out there. And I said, can I come live with you guys until I get my own place and, figure out my own life? So I lived with them for, I think, 2 or 3 months. And then had a couple jobs, and I had taken my GED at this point. I dropped out of high school, took my GED, started a few college classes. And then because we grew up Mormon, I still kind of held to those beliefs and that system. And even though I had these ideas of what I wanted to do in life and I wanted to do things differently, I still was in the culture of you grow up, you get married, you have kids, and you're a mom, and that's what you do. And all throughout this, there's, all these other things that I'm seeing in life, and I'm seeing people around me because we have a very diverse family. I'm seeing people die of, addiction. And I'm seeing people struggle with addiction every day. I had uncles who I never saw without a glass of whiskey in their hand, right? And, I just saw a lot of different things growing up. I had another uncle who was murdered. Yeah, and no, and it happens, right? Like life just happens, but I saw a very different side of life from very early on. Um, and I thought, okay, well, what do I want for my life? And I thought, well, family is really kind of that centerpiece that I always loved. And that I saw that people that had good outcomes had good families. And that's really what I wanted to create. And so I got married and I met my first husband in South Carolina. Great man, great husband, great father. But we were really young and we had 4 kids together. And that was my role. He was going to school, he was getting his degree, he was, building his career, and I was supporting him and the family. And my job was to be the mom and raise the kids. And then just having so much early on trauma that I didn't recognize. You just grow up and you're like, that's just part of life, right? But I didn't recognize kind of the ways that it impacted me and the things that I saw and the things that we had dealt with. And what that ended up doing later on was I didn't have very good coping skills. I had a lot of maladaptive behaviors. And I was really good at running from things. And so when things got hard, instead of stepping through things, I figured out ways to kind of cope and deal and get around things. And ultimately, it resulted in divorce early on. My kids were still pretty little and we got divorced, and then I had to figure life out. I was like, okay, now I'm divorced. I'm a single mom. I never want to fight over money. I didn't want to put our kids through any court battles. We agreed not to use any lawyers. And so I was like, I have to figure this out. I got to figure out how I'm going to support myself and my kids, and what can I do with, I have a 10th grade education. I have a GED. I don't have even a high school diploma. What am I going to do? And I got into sales because I looked around and I saw that was a way that I could make 6 figures and not have to have those credentials. And I was always pretty good at people and reading people and, connecting with others. And I thought, okay, I'll give this a try. And I was terrible at it at first, Nikki. I was so bad at it. And then once I figured it out, I actually got pretty good at it. But I think kind of that culture too really lent to me, turning to like a lot of partying, and, you're out at events and you're out meeting people and you get invited to go out and, do a lot of different things and experience a lot of different things that I had never been exposed to before. And again, I'm still dealing with all this other stuff that's going on inside of me that I'm not really recognizing. And so I started drinking a lot more and going out a lot more. And pretty soon, and I was always doing okay on the surface. Like on the outside, I was able to maintain a job and pay my bills and put a roof over our heads. And like I did okay from the outside. I like to tell myself I was probably looked like I was doing okay, right? I'm sure people recognize things that I didn't think they recognized. But it got to a point where and this was about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where I was like, I need to do something different. And I was drinking all the time and I wasn't dealing with things well. And I thought and I played around with different drugs. And I got to a point where I was like, I don't even know who I am, right? Like, this isn't me. This isn't how I want to live my life. This is out of alignment with who I want to be. I'm not being the kind of mom I want to be. I'm not showing up like the kind of person that others could lean on, right? I was very selfish and all about what I wanted and what I needed in the next moment. And I was acting a lot out of fear and desperation. And I thought, I don't even know how to change this. This is bigger than me. And I kept thinking, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I like this? And I decided, like, okay, I'm going to go to rehab. I'm going to get totally sober. I'm going to go to rehab. Because I was drinking quite a bit and I was hiding it, like having vodka in the water bottle, showing up at work and like sneaking drinks just to get through the day. And I was at a pretty rough point. And so I decided to go to rehab. And I went to rehab and I was like, all of this is bullshit. Like and this is going to be very controversial. I know it is, but I think getting up every day, and I'd gone to some AA stuff and saying every day, like, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict. Like, I felt like, why would I reinforce those things? That's not who I am. That's not what I'm made of. And I just didn't agree with the system. And they said, and I went to a rehab, they were very kind there. I love the owner of the rehab still, a good man, and they have good intentions. And they had some things that were good, but the vast majority of it is like, they tell you like, oh, part of being in rehab and part of being an addict is you're going to fail and you're probably going to have to come back, but don't worry, we'll be here for you. And it's like, you're broken, but we have the answers to fix you. And it's like everybody around you, it's like, oh, well, we all have trauma. No wonder why we're all so screwed up. And everybody just kind of bonds over that and they hang out with each other. And I just saw all these kind of crazy things that I was like, none of this makes sense to me. And this isn't an answer for me. Right. So I actually ended up getting kicked out, and just for political things. And it wasn't even, I didn't relapse. I didn't have anything like that, but there was, some controversial stuff and drama, which there always seems to be in those situations. And I thought, I'm never going back to that. Meanwhile, I'm still like, working and trying to figure out my life and my career. And I still am doing okay. I wasn't doing great, but I was getting by, right? Like, I still made enough money to support my family and do enough, right? Like, so I wasn't like desperate for money, but I also didn't feel like I was thriving. And so I felt like that there was probably like the answer to what I was looking for would solve for all the things that I was worried about, right? Which was my kids, my relationship with them. That was number one. Two, like, how am I going to continue to provide for them and grow that so that we are more comfortable and I can help pay for college and, I can give them a better life than what I had. And then three, like, I don't want to keep screwing up, right? And I don't want to keep falling on my face, and I don't want to keep hurting the people that I love around me. So I really was like, all right, how am I going to figure this out? And what I kept asking, like, what is wrong with me? Like, how come other people can figure it out and I can't? And so I ended up going to this program. I had a friend for years who kept saying, Nicole, come to this training. He called it a transformational training. And I was like, for like 4 years, yeah, for like 4 years, he was trying to get me to go. And finally, my daughter was pregnant with my granddaughter. So here we're having the next generation, beyond my kids. So now I'm having a granddaughter on the way. And I'm thinking, like, I've really got to figure it out and get my shit together. Like, and I don't want this to continue. And I don't want this to be for my daughter to have to raise her daughter in this way. And so I thought, okay, what have I got to lose? I'll try it. So I went, and this one was 3 days. It's called the Journey to Nobody. And it's actually where I met my husband. I ended up going to this training. And when I was there, what was so incredible, and this is what I realized, and this is what I learned through it, it's experiential training, and I love it. I recommend it to everyone. It meets you where you're at. It doesn't matter if you've had a significant amount of trauma or you're just dealing with life, right? Was that I'm 100% responsible for my life's choices. So having that total ownership, that I'm not a victim to anyone or anything. And then also that, like, I'm whole and complete exactly as I am. Like, Nikki, what would it be like if we all just walked around feeling like we're enough, right? Like, you don't have to be more anything. You don't have to do more anything. Just by you showing up as you, by your very nature and virtue, you're enough. And that's really what I learned there is, like, we're all enough exactly as we are, and not to live in fear, right? I always had this fear of, like, I remember saying before I went in to the training, I remember talking to a friend of mine and saying, I just want to feel okay. I just want that feeling of peace and safety and, like, I'm okay. And I never really felt okay. I always was waiting for the bottom to fall out. And so I went to this training, and I remember when I was in it, I thought, man, I wish I could help other people do this, but they would never pick me, right? There's no way they would let me like do this with them. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I just went through this whole training and learned that I'm enough exactly as I am and that I'm whole and complete. And here I am telling myself a story right off the bat. I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And so I remember, and Brian and I had just started talking, and he was writing his book. And his book was about, it's about PTSD and trauma. And I grew up with a lot of that, a lot of really good men that made some poor life choices because they didn't know how to deal with the trauma that they had experienced. And then I went and did the same thing in my life. And so I loved what his book was about. And I said, I really want to support you and I want to be involved. How do we get this message out there? So we started working together on it. And it was like from there, my whole life just did a 180. And I stopped living in fear and I started just going for it. So in business, I started just getting really bold and being like, look, I have nothing to lose. Like, and I just want to play all out and quit letting my fears hold me back. And one of the tenets that we have in the journey to nobody is the only way out is through. So I just started facing my fears. And I was like so excited to wake up every day and be like, what do I get to step through today? Right? Like, what fears do I get to face? What do I get to tackle? And through that, like my relationships with my kids changed. They're totally different. They've healed a lot and I've healed immensely. And what I realized, and the night before the training, this is something my friend said, look, set your intention, decide what your intention is. And I thought about it for a long time. And I remember thinking about the drive there was like 6 hours. And and it's in the middle of, nowhere. It's a beautiful place. You can't fly in. I had to drive there. So I thought, okay, I'll just take this time to kind of reflect on that. And what I came up with is I want to serve those who serve. If I really want to make an impact in the world and I really want to make a difference, what's the best way that I can do that? And I thought, that's the best way that I could come up with that I could do that. How do I help the helpers? How do I help the people that are already doing incredible things in the world? And so that was my intention. And that's still my intention today. So Brian and I got together. We started the nonprofit Trauma to Triumph. And that helps veterans and first responders go through the program that I went through that helped me get that perspective and make some shifts. And I'm somebody like, I wouldn't say, I don't ever go by like, hey, I'm not sober. I mean, I am, I don't drink, I don't use, I don't do anything. I've never counted days. I never think about it. Ever since I had that shift, it was like, it just wasn't a part of my life. It's just not a part of my makeup. It's not who I am. I could drink, it probably wouldn't matter. It wouldn't mean anything. It would just be a drink. I just choose not to. I don't feel good when I do it, right? It's not that it's not an option. It's just that it's not a desire. And so it's just kind of that different way of thinking. And it gives me so much clarity. So I'm not holding myself back. I'm not waking up with a hangover. I'm not feeling that drudgery. That's a small part of it. And that's there, but it's not something I ever focus on or think about. What I really focus on is how do I get to help others? And so as we started our nonprofit, I thought I got to figure out fundraising. I got to figure out how we're going to, how are we going to help people? And we started just connecting with a lot of people. And I started learning about a lot of people. And through this time, I'm still in business. I was in business development and I was meeting a lot of people that way too. I go to a lot of conferences. I get invited to a lot of events. And I was getting invited to some family office events and some other events. And I kept meeting these really incredible people. And I kept thinking like, okay, how do I bring this all together? Right? Like, what am I doing? And I kept meeting these people. People that are really doing life-changing things, that are really helping serve others. And as I started meeting these people, I thought, oh my gosh, they've got to meet each other. And my husband and I started, we were sponsors for an event called Jets and Capital. And we were like one of the first sponsors for their very first event. And we got involved with that a little bit. And I was bringing people together. And eventually they asked me to be on the team because I was bringing so many people to their event. And I did that for just, one time. And then I thought, I want to do something intentional. I want to do my own stuff because I was spending all day just connecting people. I kept meeting these amazing people like, oh, you've got to meet this person and you guys have got to get together because you guys are doing something similar that would really complement each other, or you're looking for funding. I know somebody, you would fit their buy box perfectly, right? Like just being able to connect these people. And I was spending all day doing that. And I thought, how do I do this and actually like make a living doing it, right? Like, how am I going to do something with this that I can sustain myself and get the privilege of being able to do this for these people? So Brian and I got together and I said, well, I'm going to do my own event. I want to do my own event and I want it to be just high net worth and high heart worth individuals. So people that do well, but also want to do good. And I want our events to be focused on the tenets of the training that we went through, the journey to nobody. Like we're whole and complete. It's not about our egos. Our egos are there for a reason. I love our egos. They serve a purpose. We can laugh at our egos. Sometimes they're absolutely ridiculous and silly. I know mine is. And Brian and I will kind of tease each other sometimes about our egos. Like we call it our nerds. And I'll be like, your nerd is really bugging my nerd today. So we all have that, but the events that we created are about like dropping our egos, getting out of our head and into our heart. Let's really connect heart to heart. Like, Nikki, who are you? What makes you smile? What do you love? And what are you experiencing in life? I don't care what level of success you have. It doesn't mean we don't have challenges. We all still have challenges and things we have to step through. It doesn't matter where you're at. And so bringing all these people together and saying like, okay, how do we do that? How do we truly connect? Not just a networking event, but how do we get very intentional? And so Brian comes and he sets the tone of the room. And I don't know if you've had the chance to hear him speak. He's a very powerful speaker. He's really good at what he does. And he's really great at getting people out of their heads and into their hearts. So he sets the intention, he sets the tone. And then we have very intentional pieces where we put people together in groups and they get to learn about each other. They get to connect. They get to go heart to heart. And through these events, amazing deal flow happens, amazing partnerships, some incredible, incredible things happen. And we get to meet the most amazing people in the world. I mean, I get to meet people that are truly doing, I am not kidding you, like life-changing things. And I get to connect them with other people that are also doing life-changing things for others or have the means to help them with what they're doing. And so it's just a really fun, really great life. And I remember having that thought at one point saying like, if I'm making this all up, if this is all made up, why not make up something I love? And so that's what I did. And now here we are, Nikki, and I get to meet people like you. And it's so fun and it's so exciting. And now we're having this conversation. And I never thought, in a million years that this would be where my life would be at this point. I'm so sorry. That was so long. Do you want? I do. So sorry. It is. Yeah, no, I would love to. It's interesting. I've heard of Landmark. I've never experienced any Landmark stuff. And I'm sure all these programs, I mean, there's just some truths that are just there, right? Yes, yeah. And I think this holds and it's a container for some of those universal truths. And I think what I really felt was what broke my heart was like open that shell around my heart was realizing that it wasn't anything that I needed from anybody else. It was the love I'd been missing from myself and experiencing that because you can say things, we can read things in books. We're going to hear all sorts of things. People are going to hear what I'm going to say and either it resonates or it doesn't. But when you experience it, it's almost undeniable, right? When you have that experience and you're like, oh, this is what it feels like to really love myself. And if I'm feeling whole and complete, and that's what it does, it creates a container where you get to step into that of like, oh, this is true self love. And now I really, truly love you, Nikki, because I truly love myself, right? And we have a tenant that we all go where nobody goes. And we realize we're all mirrors of each other. And realizing that and like, oh, I'm not different. I'm not broken. And that everything I needed is inside of me already. And that's just to love myself. That's the part that really broke through to me was like just feeling that. It's not hearing it. It's not even knowing it here. It's knowing it here. And so it's something it's almost unexplicable. It's really difficult to put into words because it is something you've got to experience. And when you have that love, and it sounds like you've experienced something similar, when you're in a room and you're looking at somebody and you realize you're just looking at you. Right. Yeah. Come to the journey to nobody, Nikki. We don't usually tell people. Yeah. Well, it's funny because really we make agreements in there that like there's no new relationships for at least 30 days after the training because you are really connecting with people. And it wasn't that kind of relationship. When I first met him, it was truly just like a friendship, right? Like I think it allows you to see into somebody's heart and you get to see the true, and it's looking into your own heart. You get to connect on that level. And that was great. And I think at first we just had a really good friendship. We started out like I just really wanted to help him with what he was doing. And I really loved his book. When I read it, I thought, this is incredible. And I want to get this message out there. I want to help him get this message out there. And so we connected really on that level. So we met in the training, but that wasn't what really brought us together. It was cool. And we had a good friendship from the training, I feel like. And we did start dating. We waited a little bit and we did start dating, but it wasn't like we didn't get married in 5 months, Nikki. It took a couple of years. Um, and this wasn't our first marriage either. So like, we're not new to this. We know this is a big commitment. But and I like to don't go there to find your spouse or to, that's not ever the intention. I don't want people to get the idea that you're going to go there and you're going to fall in love with somebody. That doesn't usually happen. That's not something we've held dozens of these since then. And Brian and I both help staff and facilitate them. I can't think of another time that anybody has come out of this and had a relationship, a romantic relationship with somebody. Um, we are the only people that I know of all the ones that we've experienced that have actually done that. But yeah, it helped me see him too in a way that like, he's this really cool guy. He's this amazing, very confident, very strong man. And it just he is. Yeah, he's very humble. In fact, when we first got together, we were dating. I'd moved in with him. He had just moved on base because his son was going to school on base. He said it's the only time in his life he'd lived on base. So I didn't know anything about. I never lived on base either. I didn't know anything about anything. And I was talking to another one of the moms at the school, and she said, "Oh, well, you guys are in the nice housing." And I said, "What do you mean? I thought everybody's houses was the same. I didn't know." And she's like, "Oh, you're in the officer housing." And I was like, "Oh, we are." And that's when I found out he was an officer. I had no idea. He never told me. So very, very humble. But yeah, so we did meet in that environment, but what really drew us together is having a common purpose and a mission and seeing the trauma that, so many vets and first responders do experience and how that has a ripple effect in our families and in our communities. And these are good men. There's nothing, they're not bad men. Sometimes they make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes in my life, right? I'm not going to throw any rocks in a glass house here for sure, but having the mission to help those, and that's the mission of serving those who serve, right? And that was the first opportunity I saw to really be able to do that. And so that's really how we came together and got to know each other. And, working with your spouse, you work with your spouse too. It has its pros and cons, and we've had our ups and downs throughout it, but it's been wonderful because we have a common purpose and a common mission. And I think that's what really brought us together. I love that you guys do that. That's really cool. I never, that's something we might incorporate. I really like that. I'd never thought about. Well, I say there's two things I think that are not, like, definitely not for the faint of heart, and that will really challenge you the most in your life because you have to look at you the most. I mean, the hardest part about being in a relationship is me, right? I have to deal with me. And I think those two things are: one, owning your own business that reflects all of your self limiting beliefs back to you very quickly. And two is being in a marriage and in that type of intimate relationship, right? And putting those two together definitely, like you said, has its like, it's one of the most beautiful things, but also one of the most challenging things. Very rewarding, but yeah. Yeah, you know what? I really just started doing things from my heart. And when I meet people, and I get to meet billionaires, I get to meet 100 millionaires, I get to meet people that have had a lot of financial success, right? They've done some pretty cool things. But the thing that I learned is that, like, oh my goodness, we've had some of them come through our training. And it's like we all have the same fears and same worries. And it comes down to, are we enough? And when I get to meet people and I get to talk to them, I didn't see all of their amazing things that they've done. I got to see them as people. And I think that is one of the things that really shifted. And it's crazy. Like, you would think talking to somebody at that level with all that success, if I come at them and I'm talking about high heart worth and heart space, it would be a turnoff. What I've been so surprised to see, but I thought, I'm just going to be me, because if I'm enough exactly as I am, that's how I'm going to show up, right? I'm going to show up as me, and I want to show up with heart. And when I talk about those things, it is crazy how it shifts the relationship, how we're able to trust each other very quickly, and we're able to get through to the real stuff and realize that we're all human. And then it's like, how can I help you? And I love it. It's so crazy. And so through that, I've been able to just really connect with a lot of people and connect a lot of people. And that's what I really love, because now I know your heart. Now I know what your desires are. Now I know what you're passionate about. So I know that maybe this person has this business and you have this business, but there's some overlap. And you guys are also, there's overlap in things that you're passionate about. And I know that you have similar values. And so putting you together with that person, that speed of trust is going to go very quickly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't even think this is what's so crazy, what I love. Like, yeah, they're my events or our events as far as they might be email elevated events, but they're really not. They're the people that come to them. It's their event. They are what make it magical. They are what make it happen, right? In our first event, we had a $2 billion deal that started in the room. Never in my life did I think that when I first said I'm going to do an event, I said, I hope that 10 people show up. I'll be so excited if 15 show up. And we had about 70. And yeah, and it was crazy and some of the most amazing people. I mean, I don't think I can probably name drop on the show because I don't have their permission, but I some really incredible people that have done some amazing things and coming together and seeing them invest in each other's businesses and create partnerships and do these amazing deals, right? Like it's just so awesome. And really the only thing I did is provide a space for it. They're the ones that create it. And that's what's so magical about it. And that's what moving at the speed of trust does. Oh, well, thank you. Again, it's not me. I feel like God flows through me and I get to see people, right? We get to really see each other. And it's not me at all. It's just I get to be the vessel that provides the space. And then the right people show up and amazing things happen. And that's them. That's to their credit. They're showing up with heart and they're saying, how do I give and how do I serve? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, I'm so excited about, we just started an event series called the War Room. And we're doing these at the most beautiful place. I have a good friend. His name is Les. He founded the Innovation Center in Las Vegas. I shout out to him. Amazing man, very high heart worth. He co-founded it with Dr. Rippey. Love this guy. And we met at the Innovation Center. And he said, "Oh, where do you live?" I told him. He said, "Oh, I have some property up that way." Turns out he has one of the most beautiful pieces of property on the planet. It's called the Zen Nest. If you guys ever get to look it up, it is booked up. It is so beautiful. Absolutely incredible, stunning views. Has a big long deck along a cliff edge. There's hot tubs out there. There's kitchens. There's yes, places to eat. Oh, Nikki, you're gonna love it. You're gonna have to come to one of them. They're just the most incredible events. And I bring together high net worth people there. This one is very small and curated. And this is really unusual for me. I don't usually advertise events at all. It's like very like invite only. Like you have to know somebody to get in. And even like if you do, you still have to be interviewed, right? Because it's so important that we have people that are givers and not takers as you get. The same thing for your groups, right? Like it's so important to have that integrity. So these are people that I have personally invited, and we have about 10 to 15 that I'll invite, depending on who the group is, and just kind of sleeping arrangements and everything else. And we'll invite them up to the Zen Nest for this one that's upcoming. And the first one's already full. We have one right after this, but it's getting very intentional while we're there. Like, okay, so I'm going to ask everybody to share what challenges what their business is, who they are, what's their why. Tell me about you. And now what challenges are we having and how do we help solve them for each other? And it's so intentional. It's like, look, you told me you have this intro for me. Let's do it right now. Let's get on the phone and do the intro right now. Let's set up the meeting right now. Right? We're going to be very intentional while we're there because so many networking events, it's so easy to say, yeah, I'll do that. I'll follow up with you. I'll catch up with you. Yes. And so it's like we're making things happen, and we're providing again a container for people to connect and work at the speed of trust. And Brian will be there. He's very crucial to this. He helps facilitate all of it, and helps get people out of their head and into their heart when we get there. And it's like, all right, we have very strategic things that we do, and I don't want to give away the secret sauce, but we have some very awesome opportunities, right? And so everybody gets to connect. They are very intentional when we're there. And then for some of them, it's those 2 days. We're in a very beautiful environment, beautiful place. There's not a lot of cell service up there. We do have internet, but it's like, let's be present. Yes, yes. Let's be present. Let's be here. Let's be with each other. And how do we help each other in this beautiful environment? We have a chef that comes up. He cooks everything for us while we're there. He pairs some beautiful wines with everything, right? It's just an experience. It's just an amazing experience. And I love these. I'm very excited for this next one. We're actually doing a canyoneering experience on the backside of it. So we have some tour guides that are coming in, and they're taking us to the backside of Zion. And it's off the beaten path. You have to have you can't know, you have to get a permit to go to these places. And then we're going to take people through slot canyons. You get to rappel down, you get to step through fears, right? And then we get a kind of pressure test. I get to see, how do you handle stress and pressure, Nikki? Are you a controller? Are you a hider? Do you know what I mean? Are you the cheerleader? Do you get everybody else hyped up? Right? Like, so we kind of get to see how those are our egos. And we get to see how those come out and how we work together. And now you get to step through things. Pretty cool experience. I'm really excited about that. We have another war room coming up September 8th and 9th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. And that's at the Zen Nest. That one, so far right now, I was really focused on this first one coming up next week. And so I only have, now that it's full, I've had to push, 4 people to that next one. So I still have some room for the September 8th to the 10th as of now. Changes very quickly. And then next year we'll be doing a whole series of those. These were kind of like our first ones that we're doing, like, hey, and the Zen Nest is so hard to get too. Luckily, I know somebody that helps. Yeah, yeah. So you can go to aim-elevated.com. I'm having somebody work on the website right now to get all the events up and get everything there. I haven't, I don't put things out on social media. I've never really used a website. It's been there as kind of like a placeholder. So I'm having somebody fix that right now. And we'll have other events. I'm looking at having an event in New York, September 25th. It's the same week as the US Ryder Cup. So there's a bunch of stuff going on in the Hamptons and in New York that week. And so I've gotten invited to do a couple of events there. So I'll put those on there. Um, and then in October, we're doing an incredible event. And if you're a founder, I would highly recommend this. That's high heart worth, that has a why, that's intentional and purposeful. It's a 3-day event, actually a 4-day event. It's in Austin. It's with another group that we partner with. And this event is the first day you come have the AIM Elevated experience. The second day you're doing inner work. 100 founders get together, and 30 investors. And the founders need to be raising 7 to 8 figures, right? So we want them to be in a raise. October 22nd or 21st to the 25th. Sorry, it's the 21st to the 25th. So it's those 4 days there. And so, No. Oh my gosh. I would love that training, Nikki. That sounds incredible. Yeah. The first one that comes to mind for me is make every interaction like it's your last interaction. What would you do if this is the last time we were ever going to speak? What would you say? And when I ask myself those questions at the beginning of the day before I go out and meet people, my interactions are very different than they would be otherwise, right? It's not about what can we do for each other. It's about what am I going to leave you with? And so I like that one a lot. That one means a lot to me for a lot of reasons, right? We have kids, we have families, we never know when it's going to be the last time. Another thing that I think is really key is never take anything personal. And this one's a lot harder to do, right? Nothing's personal. And so just don't take it personal. We're going to get no's. We're going to get people that are excited about what we do. We're going to get people that have their opinions about what we do. And I've had people tell me all kinds of things, but it's never personal. It's always about them. Remembering that is really key, and I think that helps a lot of times when dealing with things. And then I would say the third thing is just be kind. I mean, and that's my favorite, right? Like, just be kind. Nikki, oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. That's hilarious. Well, I like short shorts. They look good. I think they're coming back, Nikki, so you're in luck. I've been seeing more of them. Funny. Thank you for having me, Nikki.